There are men who betray their country for money. Others do it for power. But some do it because they believe they're smarter than everyone else. For more than 20 years, the United States was quietly bleeding secrets, not from an enemy overseas, but from inside its own walls. An invisible hand was feeding America's most guarded intelligence directly to the Soviet Union, and later, Russia. Agents were exposed, operations collapsed, lives were lost, and no one knew who was responsible. He wasn't hiding, he wasn't running, he wasn't even suspected. He was one of them. A trusted FBI agent working counterintelligence, assigned to hunt spies, while becoming the most dangerous one of all. And when they finally caught him, they didn't just lock him away. They buried him in a place designed to erase men completely. A concrete tomb where silence is the sentence and isolation is the weapon. This is not just the story of betrayal. This is the story of a man who weaponized isolation against his country and against himself. This is the Quiet Files. Before Robert Hanssen became one of the most damaging spies in American history, he was something far more dangerous. Ordinary. He was born in 1944 in Chicago into a strict and disciplined household. His father was a police officer, a man known for control, order, and emotional distance. That environment didn't just shape Hanssen, it defined him. From an early age, he learned how to observe without being noticed, how to stay quiet, how to internalize everything. He wasn't the loudest in the room, he wasn't the strongest, but he was always watching. Hanssen was intelligent, highly intelligent. He studied accounting, then later pursued advanced education in business and information systems. Structured thinking, systems, patterns. That's what drew him in. But beneath that, there was something else. A growing belief that he was different, smarter than the people around him, operating on a level they couldn't understand. He eventually joined the FBI in the 1970s, entering a world built on secrecy, hierarchy, and trust. It was the perfect environment for someone like him. Inside the bureau, Hanssen didn't stand out in the way you'd expect. He wasn't charismatic. He wasn't particularly liked. In fact, many described him as awkward, rigid, difficult to read. But he was competent, reliable, quiet. And in a place like the FBI, that was enough. He worked in counterintelligence, tracking foreign spies, analyzing threats, protecting national secrets. Day after day, he studied how espionage worked, how information moved, how systems failed. And slowly, he began to understand something most people never see. Not just how to catch a spy, but how to become one. At home, his life appeared stable. He was married, deeply religious, a member of Opus Dei, a conservative Catholic organization emphasizing discipline and moral structure. On the surface, he lived a life of control, routine, and belief. But control can hide a lot of things. Because while Hanssen presented himself as a man of order, inside, he was already beginning to fracture, and the system he had sworn to protect was about to become the system he would exploit. It didn't start with ideology. It didn't start with desperation. It started with a decision. Sometime in the late 1970s, Robert Hanssen made first contact with Soviet intelligence, not as a recruit, but on his own terms. There was no dramatic turning point, no moment of crisis, just a calculated step across a line he fully understood. He began passing classified information to the KGB, quietly, methodically, and without drawing attention. Names, operations, surveillance techniques, everything he had access to became currency. And what made Hanssen different wasn't just what he gave, it was how he gave it. He refused direct meetings, avoided unnecessary risk. He built a system. Dead drops, coded messages, anonymous communication, information exchanged in silence, left in parks, under bridges, inside taped packages hidden in plain sight. No conversations, no witnesses, just trust between two enemies who never truly met. And for it, he was paid. Over time, hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and diamonds. But money wasn't the real reward. What Hanssen gained was something far more dangerous: control. He wasn't being handled. He wasn't being recruited. In his mind, he was running the operation. A ghost inside the FBI, feeding intelligence directly to America's greatest adversary, while helping investigate the very damage he was causing. And the consequences were immediate. Soviet authorities began identifying U.S. assets. Double agents were exposed. Some were arrested. Others were executed. Lives ended quietly, long before anyone realized why. But inside the Bureau, nothing made sense. Cases collapsed with no explanation. Operations failed without warning. There was no clear breach, no visible suspect, just a pattern no one could see clearly enough to stop. Because the man responsible was sitting behind a desk, reading the same reports, watching the same investigations unfold, and staying one step ahead of all of them. For years, Robert Hanssen didn't just spy on the United States. He studied it, he manipulated it, and he proved something that would shake the Bureau to its core. The greatest threat was never outside the walls. It was already inside. For years, the damage didn't make sense. Too many operations had failed. Too many assets had been exposed. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. There was a pattern. And somewhere inside the Bureau, there was a leak. The investigation stretched across years, crossing agencies, chasing fragments of evidence that never quite pointed to a single man. Every lead felt incomplete. Every suspect, almost right, but never enough. Because the truth was harder to accept. The threat wasn't reckless. He wasn't making mistakes. He was patient, disciplined, careful in ways most investigators weren't trained to detect. But no system is perfect. And eventually, small cracks began to form. Financial inconsistencies, behavior that didn't quite align, subtle details that on their own meant nothing, but together told a different story. So the Bureau did something it rarely does. They turned inward, quietly reviewing their own, watching, waiting, building a case against someone who, on paper, had done nothing wrong. Until finally, the pattern pointed to one place. A man sitting behind a desk. A man who had spent decades studying how to avoid detection. And on February 18, 2001, it ended.
FBI,
he was arrested in a park.
Are.
No chase, no resistance, just a quiet moment where the truth finally caught up. Inside his vehicle and within his records, investigators found what they needed. Evidence of years of betrayal, payments, communications, a trail that had been invisible, now undeniable. He had given away some of the most sensitive intelligence in U.S. history, and the cost had already been paid by others. He was charged and eventually sentenced to life in federal prison. No parole, no release. But even that wasn't enough. Because of what he knew and what he had done, he wasn't placed in a standard facility. He was sent to one of the most secure prisons in the United States, a place designed not just to contain, but to erase. ADX Florence, a supermax prison where isolation is absolute, 23 hours a day, alone. No contact, no conversation, no escape from your own thoughts. A system built on silence, the same silence he had used for decades, now turned against him. And in the end, that may have been the only fitting outcome. Because Robert Hanssen didn't just betray his country, he exposed a truth few institutions want to admit, that the greatest vulnerabilities aren't always in the systems we build. They're in the people we trust to protect them. And sometimes, the most dangerous enemy is the one already inside. Here's the part they don't like to talk about. Robert Hanssen wasn't some loud, reckless traitor waving a flag for the enemy. He didn't fit the profile people feel comfortable blaming. He wasn't desperate. He wasn't unstable. He wasn't even trying to hide in the way you'd expect. He was disciplined, patient, trusted. And that's exactly why he was able to do what he did. Because systems don't fail the way we think they do. They don't collapse from the outside. They erode from within, quietly, over time, through people who know exactly how they work. Hanssen didn't break the system. He used it the way it was designed. He understood that if you follow the rules closely enough, no one questions you. If you look the part long enough, no one looks deeper. And that should bother you more than anything else, because it means this wasn't just about one man. It was about how easy it was for him to exist for decades without being seen. So the real question isn't how he got away with it. The real question is, how many others didn't get caught? How many people sit inside powerful institutions right now, trusted, unquestioned, watching, waiting, learning the same patterns he did? Because if history has proven anything, it's that betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people you were told to trust the most. And by the time you realize it, it's already too late. This is the Quiet Files.